Welcome back, everybody, to the Elevate podcast, where we're here to lift founders up to the next level, help them elevate their game. The Elevate podcast is all about that. It's an open conversation with lots of Q&A. Today, we're going to dive into a topic that I think everybody in the space needs to know about. It's called the Dream 100 strategy. I'd like to have my other co-hosts join me. We got Neil and Simon. What's up, fellas? How you doing? Neil, what's going on today?
All good, thank you. Yeah, feeling better and glad to be here. Interested to learn about this topic because it's something I'm not aware of, so this will be interesting for me.
Excited to have you here. And Mr. Simon Severino, one of the masters of the strategy sprints game and the sales game. He's got thousands and hundreds of
Did you hear me? Uncounted followers, but hopefully more than last week.
Okay, there you go. Tens of thousands. So today we're going to dive into the Dream 100 strategy. Simon, you have a little bit of knowledge on this topic. What would you say to kind of introduce it to people?
The Dream 100 is something that I use as a sales coach every single day since a decade. And I use it for our own team every single day. So I'm excited about this because this is one of these exercises that's like yoga, where everybody says, oh yeah, I know it. Oh yeah. And then you go, okay, show me your list of Dream 100. And then you go, oh no, I don't have a written list. So everybody says, yeah, I know it. But really, not everybody's doing it. So it's such an amazing opportunity that we can bring this to more people and actually show them how we use it, because it's simple and very, very powerful.
Yeah, and I think just to give everybody a quick background of the Dream 100, the snapshot, the one-liner, the soundbite of what the Dream 100 is all about is quality over quantity. That's the only thing you need to remember here, because most people getting into the marketing space, they usually start with like a shotgun approach. Shoot a shotgun against the wall, see what sticks, right? It's that idea. But what happens is you never gain the traction that you really want. And the Dream 100 came about from this one guy named Chet Holmes. Okay, so Chet Holmes, here he wrote a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine. This is the book that really popularized the Dream 100 strategy. And what happened was, if you guys know who Warren Buffett is, one of the most influential, powerful investors on the planet, he had a business partner named Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger was one of the original first billionaires in the country, and he owned lots and lots and lots of businesses. One of those businesses happened to be a newspaper and a newspaper business, advertising business, and he wanted to grow this newspaper. But the problem is that he had all these other advertisers that had all of the mind share in the market space, and so he couldn't grow his newspaper until he hired this guy Chet Holmes. Chet Holmes came in as a consultant and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. He did a whole bunch of research, and he realized that out of all the thousands and thousands and thousands of advertisers that he could have spent his time selling advertising space to generate money for the newspaper, he said, instead of doing that, I'm going to choose the 100 advertisers that spend the most on advertising, and my only focus will be on courting those types of people. So him and his team built this big list, and it took him 3 years to execute on this Dream 100 strategy, right? And the numbers are very insignificant, like you wouldn't even understand, like the numbers are massive. And so what he did was he started, and he didn't care about any of the other advertisers, only except guys who had the most spend. And so really when we, so as the story goes, it took him about 2.5 years, his first deal. And then that next half a year, he locked up 57 of those 100 big spenders in the advertising game. And the result was simple. The result was his newspaper, Charlie Munger's newspaper, became #1 in the world and continued to be it until it was sold. And that is the story of how the Dream 100 came to be. Chet Holmes put one paragraph in this book about it. And then there's some other big hitters in the space like Russell Brunson, another guy named Dana Derricks, who took this concept and blew it out to the masses. And that's why we know the Dream 100 strategy. So with that said, that's kind of the backstory of that. Neil, what's that story like to you? What does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, for me now, I'm thinking of sort of my clients, the people that I want to sort of target and so on. Yeah, it's a big eye opener. So I'm going to have a think about how I can implement that in my sort of day-to-day business. Definitely.
Yeah, Simon, what would you add to the story that I missed?
The power of this story is that you just need a few. Many listeners right now think, oh, I need 1,000 people, I need 10,000 people, I need 1,000,000 people. This is literally what's in the head of people. And now think of, maybe you just need 100. And if those 100 are, you start one conversation per day, you could do this in 1/3 of a year. So how realistic is it over 10 years? Then you will land the 100 right clients. Pretty realistic. It's doable with limited resources, with a tiny team. Even as a solopreneur, you can get there. So this is what I like about it. When you really put in the time to intentionally come up with your ideal client, define them 5 levels deep, like we like to do, right? 5 criteria that make the ideal client. On the other side, 5 criteria that make them a no-go, a red flag. They shouldn't have a meeting with you. Now you are honing in on the few right people to align with. Mm-hmm. And the second part is, how do you align, which is how you use the Dream 100 list. So I think this is the power. It takes away all this pressure. Entrepreneurs are so under pressure. They think they have to build an audience, build a brand, build a community. I mean, are you kidding me? They have kids, they have a life. Life is hard enough. And now you're expecting them to be Mr. Elon Musk of their country? Relax, guys. We need 100 people in 10 years, okay? The right one. With a high ticket offer, with high margins, you land those 100 bit by bit, let's say one every few weeks, every few months, you're crushing it. So this is what I like about this part of the story. It's really an 80-20 story.
And I think it becomes really relevant to be. By the way, stick with us all the way to the end, because we're going to give you 5 simple tips that you can use today to implement this strategy in your business. So it'll be really impactful for you as a founder. And please drop comments. One of the comments that I'd like you to drop is, what industry are you in? Let us know what industry you're in the comments below, because I like to make this real for people. Neil, this is the first time you've heard of the Dream 100 concept, is it correct?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. So let's talk through so one of the things that we need to identify, as Simon mentioned a second ago, is who's the ICP, the ideal client profile for your business model. And I think doing a little case study with you, Neil, because you've never heard of this concept, would be helpful for you. Right. It would actually probably be a great example for everyone else listening. And again, we might pull out another example. So drop in the comments below what your niche, your industry is, who you sell to. But Neil, you're the videographer guy, right? You're the guy who just explain to everybody your superpower here.
Well, my main sort of skill is to help people look better on video, and whether it be building studios, cameras, lighting, approach, presentation skills, whatever that might be, it's just to really elevate your presence on camera to look more professional. So when you are taking these meetings, people can say, this is a stand-up guy. He knows what he's talking about. He looks good on camera, and it's a professional environment and setting. And I think we mentioned before, this is the new suit and tie. How you look on camera is now the way that people perceive you as being professional or not. So my ideal sort of client is really looking at people who are looking to look better on camera, people who are always on conference calls, maybe people who are in marketing and need to teach other people within their businesses on sort of how to present themselves better in terms of either being in remote production environments like this or live workshops and other environments.
And with that said, are you more on the high ticket side or the low ticket side? Like you don't have to give like ranging wise. I mean, your packages, do they go from 500 a month to like 10,000 or more, or like what kind of numbers typically do you play?
It's the lower ticket items at the moment, because obviously my business is quite new and I'm starting off. So sort of trying to gain a better reputation and also to sort of look at that. So mine is more sort of the volume side, more versus the high ticket items. But obviously this approach that you're mentioning now is looking more of a sort of a targeted set of clients with a higher ticket offering, and therefore not having to have hundreds of thousands of clients to be able to support you, as an example.
Not exactly. And that's why I
okay.
was hoping
Ah,
I was hoping you were going to say exactly that. And Simon and I are going
okay.
to dig in here because
Right.
yes, like if you have that business and you're listening to this as a founder and maybe you're kind of in the lower ticket, like under 500, under 1,000, maybe under $2,000 as an offer, then one-to-one, hand-to-hand combat will help you gain some cash flow, get some clients, and grow. And I'm talking belly-to-belly sales, obviously setting up Zoom meetings with one-to-ones, knocking somebody down that doesn't have like the best setup in their video system. However, Simon and I are about to stretch your brain a little bit here, Neil, because this is the strategy that might change everything for you. And we're going to do a little mind exercise. So let's think about if we went up level or upstream from your one client, who is the target that might have 1,000 or tens of thousands of people in their tribe or their audience that need exactly what you do? Who'd that person be?
Well, it's going to be either an exec or a CEO of a corporation of some kind that relies on having maybe a sales force or some other personnel that is constantly having meetings or having interactions with other people, either remotely or delivering sales workshops and things like that. So it's got to be an organization that has a sales force, some form of personnel, and people like that, effectively.
Okay, so as Simon uses his checklist, I'm sure he's probably starting to develop one with the 5 checklists that's items for Neil here. One of those things on that checklist should be people that have large teams that use Zoom meetings, right? So that would be a check number 1 for you of who's on your Dream 100 list. Simon, maybe what's another one that we could put on Neil's list?
I mean, I see Zoom on Neil's list because they probably want
Right.
not just to have users, but to have users who are happy. And they'll probably want to have promoters. I don't know if Zoom is yet at a maturity level like HubSpot is or Salesforce, where they actively build out, developer, ambassadors, trainers. Maybe they're not. Maybe they would love to. Maybe they don't have a structured process. I've never seen a certified Zoom coach anywhere, but maybe they're waiting for it. Maybe there is somebody who said, well, you know what? My numbers would go up. And this is probably my first exercise. It is start a conversation with people inside Zoom to find out what's their OKR. Most tech companies are measured by OKRs, objectives and key results. Every 90 days, they should bring kind of 3 results. And for example, I was recently talking to one of our strategic partners, who is one of these big tech companies, and they told me their OKR. So my sessions with them are really listening. And I ask questions around, what do you need to solve? What are you working on? And after, I think, 6 Zoom calls with them in North America, one of them told me, I have to grow accounts. And I said, tell me more. What does it mean? What is a small account? What is a medium account? What is a large account? And they go, well, my clients are agencies. I need to grow them into this revenue size. My eyes were like stars because I said, that's what I do for a living. And they go, what? When can you start? Can you help me?
Wow.
Because now our services would be directly contributing to their quarterly goals. And that's the most important thing. If you're in a tech company and you're employed, that your most important immediate goal is your quarterly numbers. Yes, you are.
I love that. I love that so
directed.
much. I think that's absolutely like key for as we think about the Dream 100. So if we're in Neil's shoes, so everybody for a second listening to this, put yourself in Neil's shoes. The question is, does he knock down a one-to-one deal with the solopreneur and do that multiple times, maybe line up 5 to 10 meetings a week, and he starts knocking down some of those deals? Or does he just delay that process as long as he has some cash flow? And maybe find a Zoom type company and meet with them 5, 6, 7, 10 times, and then lock up a deal where he could go present to all of the people that have Zoom accounts and Zoom users Think about that for a second. When you shift
Yeah.
from this one-to-one mentality to this one-to-many mentality, when you're chasing those bigger clients, one deal for Neil solves his money problems for the next 3 to 5 years. And that's the piece that we're talking about when we're talking about the Dream 100. And this idea of like, if we're starting to make a list right now. So for you, Zoom is the number one person on the list.
Yeah.
Then we go into ChatGPT and we say, who's the top 10 competitors to Zoom? We've got Microsoft Teams is one of them. Google Meet would be another one. Cisco WebEx, GoToMeeting, I think, would be another one. Slack does video calls. Blue Jeans by Verizon, I know that one. Skype's a big one. They're all video guys. Ring Central Video, Jitsi Meeting, Zoho Meeting, like all these companies become the absolute perfect target. And so as you're executing a Dream 100, most solopreneurs and founders maybe don't have the budget to be able to just go hunt and chase those guys. So it has to be kind of a tandem complementary approach where we're still knocking down a handful of those one-to-ones to keep cash flow coming in. But the main focus switches from just doing those deals to get money now this month, next week, to how do I lock up a deal that can pay me for the next period of years. Now, example, software company. I run a software company. I'm co-founder of my second software company. What's a Dream 100 strategy for me? Well, yes, I can sell one-to-one memberships to people and they can buy my software. But the better target for me is taking some of our amazing technology and embedding it into these massive organizations that do something similar, right? And so I can go spend some time working with these companies to say, look, your tech is great, but it's missing this one piece. I have the piece. Let's just put it in your tech and then you can sell it to all your clients. And now I've created this opportunity where I get licensing fee every time they sell a new membership. I do a lot of energy and work up front to close that deal, but it pays us for the next period of however many years. And that's the piece where you start to build massive MRR for your business. So Simon, I'll come back to you and just ask, is there anybody in the comments that have dropped any other, first of all, Neil, feedback, thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I never even considered that because it's a tricky thing, I guess, when you're just first starting off thinking, well, do I hit as many people as possible to keep that revenue stream going? But what you're saying is really just be more strategic and look at the sort of the bigger players. And as you said, embedding into a larger organization will lend a much longer, more fruitful deal for somebody like me, as opposed to sort of having to, flesh around and try and hit as many people as possible. And it's a similar thing with YouTube, right? You don't need 20, 30,000 subscribers. You need 100 or 200 fans who are going to look at you, buy your product, whatever it might be, and actually be intentional when they're dealing with you. So yeah, it's very interesting. So thank you for your advice so far on this.
Yeah, for sure. Simon, is there anyone that's dropped any comments on niches? Again, if you're listening to this, please drop a comment. Let us know what niche you're in. We can kind of help you through that. And we'll keep going with Neil here in a second, but just wanted to ask. Simon.
So many examples pop into my mind from our community. So recently, somebody said, Simon, I need to sell my business, but I don't know if it's sellable. I don't know how to prepare it, etc. They told me this. 2 hours later, I met in the 200K club somebody who says, Simon, I'm going to specialize on selling businesses. And so a quick introduction via email, the two hook up, and now they're working together. This is such a simple mechanism that I have become really obsessed about. So whenever I meet somebody, I write down two things: their superpower and their ideal client. So I meet Lisa, and Lisa tells me what her superpower is, so what she can solve for people, and who she can solve it for. I have a list which started with 10 people, and now it's thousands of people, where I have their superpower and their ideal client. Superpower, ideal client. So I'm making those introductions. I make it a habit every day before lunch to make 3 introductions to people on this list. And whenever somebody becomes a mastermind member, a 200K club member, I add them to the list too and make introductions too. Now that list is now huge, but it started with 10 people. And this is the same principle, right? It's alignment of goals. And this is why I still do the Dream 100 exercise 10 years later, because you can align around goals very intentionally, very early. So one immediate thing was Zoom. A more long-term thing, example, is you're writing a book. So you know that a year later, you want somebody on the cover to say this book is great. And that somebody, you need to work that relationship if you want that to happen. So I wanted to have Seth Godin on the cover of my book. That relationship I was nurturing for years. And the next book, I'm already thinking about people that I want on the cover. Those people, 5 of them, are on my Dream 100 list. So that Dream 100 list is a LinkedIn list. So it literally was a Google Doc with LinkedIn URLs in there.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And I would go once a week through all these URLs, see what they're posting, and engage in conversations. And the reason is to align their interests and my interests. So for example, if I know that 1 year later, I want, Tony Robbins saying this book is great, I will follow Tony Robbins' interests and goals. What does he need to solve? And maybe something pops up that he needs to solve that I have solved already. Then I'm going to just help him. That's it. I'm going to just help him. So in this case, I don't think he needs anything. But if it's somebody that, let's say, is an amazing private equity entrepreneur, but is writing their first book, and I have already written a book and have solved 3, 4, 5 problems of writing your book, then I might say, hey, you're just writing your book. Do you need some help? And so I can help them and align goals already. And now 1 year later, maybe we are so aligned and the relationship is so strong that I can ask for that. And they would actually read it and maybe even give me a quote. So this is how I'm using the Dream 100. You can use it for not just for clients, also for influencers. You can have the 5 top conferences that you want to speak on or that are most aligned with your audience. These are just some examples that pop up in my mind.
Yeah, I think that example is awesome. There's another great sales trainer named Harvey McKay that wrote a book called Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. And that's a classic example of what Simon just did. He dug his well with Seth Godin before he was thirsty, meaning he already knew he was 5 steps ahead in the chess game. And he was like, hey, I just got to plant some seeds and help Seth do one thing or another thing. And eventually we'll come in alignment. And when the time comes, I can do an ask. And this is why we always talk about giving value to people and never asking for anything in return. That's true value. Most people say, oh, what's value, right? Value is what I call utility, or something that's actually useful to somebody. So if you can go in and actually solve a problem for them, and that's unrelated to anything that you do or whatever, you build this bond and this trust, and then people buy from people that they know, like, and trust. We all know that. And so this is kind of the key. So, and again, I think going back to Neil's example here. So Neil, like, if we took a company like Zoom, right, and we're like, okay, who in the squad of Zoom do you need to start chatting with? Well, if you don't know the answer to that, then the answer is to just find anybody that works at Zoom, start asking them a few questions, figuring out if there's something that you can help with them with, and then have them refer you into the organization. It's called the white knight approach, or the Trojan horse approach, right? You create your white knight, your Trojan horse, and you help that person just for free, just do whatever you can to support and solve, and then say, hey, who's the person that kind of manages all the video stuff? Oh, that's Bob. Oh my gosh, you wouldn't be able to give me a quick introduction, would you? Yeah, of course I would. And then all of a sudden you have an email with the exact person that you need to go make a deal with. So Neil, that could be like a kind of a strategy that you could deploy kind of on a part-time business, right? Or a part-time thing as you're prospecting. And again, what I always recommend is everybody as a founder should be prospecting at least 1 to 2 hours a day themselves. I do it every single day. And I also help all of my setters to do the same thing. And so during that time, we have to just kind of allocate a portion of that hour, that 2 hours, to doing that Dream 100 strategy. And that will allow us to start generating momentum in that space. That's the big piece for Neil, I would share that with you, just asking, like of every day that you actually go out and prospect, how many hours a day are you prospecting? Are you prospecting a lot, a little? Like, what does that look like?
Um, it depends on the days, of course, depending on the workload and things that I'm doing. But I try and do maybe 1 to 2 hours every other day in the week, and maybe I should be doing more than that now. I was going to just ask a question to both of you, actually, just from my understanding. So, what's your selection criteria for the top 100? How do you determine who you're going to target? Because obviously, there's so many businesses out there. Do you have a selection criteria? What are the things that you do to make those choices in terms of when you're actually looking to prospect and say would be my ideal client? I would want them to be on the top 100 list.
Sure. So I'll go first, and then Simon can share his. I mean, like what we do is, I learned this from Russell Brunson directly. He's one of my direct head coaches, and he said when you do your Dream 100, just open up a spreadsheet and then go to all the social media platforms that you play on and look through. Use ChatGPT, use Google, use all the Perplexity.ai is a great source for this, and pull out those people, those influencers who potentially have like for my criteria has to be some sort of an agency owner or digital marketing founder that has a massive tribe of X people or more, that also, maybe teaches something complementary to what I teach. That's some of my criteria. There's like 2 or 3 more pieces on there. And then I go through each social media platform. And so my first part of this is if you're prospecting 1 hour every other day, let's say that's the minimum, then I would take the first 15 to 20 minutes and just do marketing research. In 15 minutes, if you went to, say, like Instagram, and you could say, okay, who are the influencers in my space that have large tribes that all do videography stuff or video marketing or use Zoom in their background? And then you start searching through Instagram using some of the AI help that you can have, and you'll start writing down people's names. And all you have to do is create that list. Next time you come back the next day, do it for LinkedIn, do it for Facebook, do it for YouTube, do it for a podcast, do it for medium.com, blog writers, like whoever you're selling to. Create this master spreadsheet, kind of like what Simon was talking about, and just start listing all these people. And then as you slowly, when you get your list and you have at least about 100, this is now when you start the next stages with the outreach process to actually connect with these people. And we have some tips for that we can share. So that's kind of how I do it. Simon, how do you do it?
Yeah, my process is very simple. I think, what's my superpower and who needs it? And in that who needs it, who interests me most? Who would I work with even for free because I love it, right? If I'm a billionaire, I would still help them because I love their mission. I love hanging out with them. I love their style. It energizes me thinking about working with them. And so my superpower is sales acceleration. I look at who needs this right now. And right now, the top 15 on my Dream 100 list are private equity companies in Europe who they buy businesses and then they want to sell them 5 years later at a ideally 16 multiple or 25 multiple. Now, they have the skills, but if they have more than 35 companies that they are currently managing, holding, they don't have the time. So if I talk to them, they go, oh yes, you're a guy like us, you have the skills, and you have the time because you want to do that. And so that's the perfect match. Private equity companies are right now the top 15 on my list for this reason. Superpower matches what they need to solve, and they have an obstacle or a bottleneck, which is time. So they don't have the time to do it. We have the time to. They don't have the time to go into this CRM, into the spreadsheets of 35 of their companies every week. But they know that it's important. It's not enough to wait once a month for a report. That's not gonna cut it. And they also need some training and to see what's the latest in online selling, right? Because it's evolving so quickly. What's the latest in AI and sales, which we're gonna cover next week. And so this is how I come up with it. Superpower and who needs it.
I love it. Neil, thoughts?
Um, I'm just taking it all in. Actually, I don't really have any thoughts at the moment. But I think the approach is fantastic. I think I am learning that I need to be more intentional with my time on a daily basis and have that focused attention to just spend that 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day looking at the various social media mechanisms that are out there for me to sort of start targeting and get that list down. I guess it gets a little bit overwhelming because if you're trying to start from scratch, effectively, if you're just starting a business and you want to try and look at these prospects, you think, well, you get this imposter syndrome, as we spoke about. Am I good enough to be able to even go to these people? But I think you have to get that out of your mind, especially for me anyway, and start just getting that list together. And I think once you have something written down, it reinforces the fact that you can actually now go and potentially reach out to these people and be more targeted with that. And I think that's the mind shift is if it's written down and there's a spreadsheet compiled, then there's something I can start to look at and work with. Having nothing or little is not doing anybody's self-confidence any good. And I think that's important for what you've just said there.
I would totally agree with that. And the way that my co-founder of our software company, his name is Chris Baden, talks about it is like, you don't want a map of darkness. You want a clear plan, right? Like, don't have the map of darkness, because the map of darkness gives imposter syndrome. And for anyone that's listening, one of our first sessions, we did a series on imposter syndrome. So we'd encourage you to go back and actually check that out if you are struggling with that, because we did solve that every which way from Sunday. So we're going to move into our speed round now. I'm excited. We got 5 tips that any founder listening to this can deploy right now in order to grow their business using the Dream 100 strategy. And the first power tip for the lightning round is define your perfect Dream 100 by researching the ideal client. How do we do this? Just go through, like we were talking about, open a spreadsheet. And whatever platform, start with just one platform. Don't overwhelm yourself. Take 15, 20 minutes, start doing some research, and think through who's the person you can connect with that would either be a super high valued client for you, a part of a Dream 100 strategy, or they may have a massive tribe behind them that tribe should all have your superpower, your stuff. So that's really the first step. You can use tools like industry reports, market data. AI is a good one. Simon, anything you would add to how to define the perfect Dream 100 before we go to step 2?
Just think of 5 criteria that make your ideal client, and also the 5 opposite criteria. Sometimes it's easier to start from the opposite. I think it was also Charlie Munger that said, show me where I'm going to die so that I don't go there.
Yeah.
So you can go the other way around. Sometimes when you ask for the ideal, it's overwhelming for people. But then you say, okay, who do you hate working with? And it's obsolete even talking to them. And then you go, oh yeah, somebody who doesn't have a budget, somebody who doesn't execute. Boom. So and then you have very fast a list of 5 things. And then you can work, back engineer the positive things. What's the opposite of that? So 5 criteria that make the ideal client and the 5 negative criteria. This is how I do it.
Yep. So define your criteria and then make your list of targets. That's step 1. Moving into step 2 is crafting personalized messaging that stands out. A great example of this is what Dana Derricks did. He wrote a book on this particular topic. He was a goat farmer turned marketer, and he became like a bajillionaire because of this concept. This is what he teaches at a full-time scale. But one of the things that he designed, and he calls them waves, right? So you have your list now. It's all got the right criteria. And so how do we start the outreach? What we need to do is we need to craft personalized messaging. So one of the things that he did is he started using social media medium. He started using direct mail. He started using telephone calls, text messages, all the digital ways you could connect with somebody, commenting on their profiles. But he designed a 5-wave step. First wave, send them something in the mail that they'd never, ever even expect. Best way to do this is go to Amazon. You can actually pull up somebody's dream wish list of the stuff that they wish they had from Amazon, buy them one of those things off that list and send it to them, say Merry Christmas, or say, hey, I was just thinking of you. I thought you might ever even need this. They'll think you're a magician because they're like, this is exactly what I wanted. How did this person know? and you just used what they put on their wish list anyways. So that's a super spin kick hack that Dana used to teach, or he still teaches. And it was send that person something in the mail, and then hit them with a direct message or a text saying, hey, did you like that gift? Yeah, that was amazing. And now you've broke the ice. The pattern is interrupted, and it's something super personal that you can then move forward. Simon, anything you'd add to there?
Oh, I love this. I didn't know that about the wish list on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's scary from a data perspective, but I love it from a sales perspective. Now, I was thinking, what's on my wish list?
I'm going to make my wish list private from now on. Yeah,
beep, beep, beep. And the second idea is, in the 200K club, we heard so many cool stories about it. One of that was also around Amazon. So you think of your Dream 100, and then you order something that's so bulky, because everybody is sending something small right now with tariffs and etc. Everybody's sending something small, like a book, a letter, a postcard. That's the usual size of things that you receive, right, on the other side. So what's the largest thing that I can send? And one guy sent like a banana boat and wrote his phone number, just his mobile number on it. And so it got past the gatekeeper, because she was like, what do I do with this banana boat? It's for you, Mr. CEO. And so he took it. And then there was this number on it, and he called him back. He called him back and said, who are you? What's this boat? And he said, you are on my Dream 100 list. I can help you. And I got a meeting. He said, you have my attention. You have 20 seconds. And he used those 20 seconds well. He got a second meeting. So do the unexpected. Like Sean said, if they're expecting small things, look what's the bulkiest. If they're expecting an email, send a video. If they're expecting something, how can you zig when everybody's zagging? Because then you might have the attention. You might come across more human, more real, and more interesting too. Find something interesting that's different from what they're getting all the time. And yeah, you have some more ideas now.
Yeah. Neil, thoughts?
I'm going to send one of the contacts at Zoom a bouncy castle. Done.
Sweet.
That's what I'm going to do.
I can't wait till that
There you
one's
go.
going to go.
I mean,
a huge
an
microphone.
inflatable bouncy castle. There you go.
That'll be
Something good,
incredible.
right? Go big or go home.
The
Definitely.
biggest microphone that you can see, or huge lights, and your
Yeah, just
mobile
like a
number
big-
on it.
big
I'm gonna
dome
shine
light
your
or
light.
something
Let
like
me
that.
help you
Yeah.
shine light on you.
Oh, that's
like that.
saucy.
Wow.
I dig on that. Cool. Okay. Speed round number 3 is show up in their world, which means simply whenever they're posting, whatever channel they post on, if they're Instagram, go to Instagram, show up in their comments, be in their section, like the stuff they're doing, understand what their strategies are, what they're actually saying to their tribe. A couple of reasons for this. Number one, you understand how they talk to their tribe. Therefore, when you go and pitch them, you can speak in the same language they would speak to their tribe. It creates a lot of seamless interaction and easy conversation. Secondly, brand awareness. They see your name, they see your image, and they see it over and over and over and over. And then when you do something unexpected, they're like, oh my God, this guy, I see him everywhere. He's all over me. I better give him my time. Simon, that's number 3. What's your thoughts?
I love this, and I do this on LinkedIn. I found a software that now replaces our Google Doc. And when I say our, it was Michelle, my assistant, and me. We were doing this. And now there is a software that bundles all those Dream 100. And then, so once a week, because they don't post much. So these are 50-year-old heads of private equity. They use LinkedIn once a week maximum. Because they have to, not because they love doing it. And so it's enough for me to have in my calendar 1 hour per week, and it says engage. That's the calendar blocker. And so in that hour, I go, and because this software bundles them all, it takes me an hour, and I can do literally 100 comments in that hour because it bundles it. I don't have to jump manually back and forth between accounts. It's just in one place. A little streamlining that makes a huge difference, because now I'm having more conversations, I know more about them, and I can find out when our goals align, and that will be the right moment for me to call them.
Perfect. Neil?
I've actually found success by going into various different forums, not necessarily LinkedIn, but other forums, whether it be Facebook groups or Reddit or wherever these forums are that people are looking to have software issues explained, like Elgato problems, things like that, whatever it might be, or something to do with video production in some kinds. And I've just been courteous and answered questions and tried to help people where I can. And then people have then got back to me and said, "Hey, that was great advice. Thanks a lot." And I said, if you ever need anything else, here's my calendar link. We can have a session, book a 30-minute free call with me. Let's talk about some of your problems. And that has gained me quite a little bit of business over the last sort of 6 months just by doing that. So being intentional, trying to go out there and help people and support them with their issues and be in front of them, as you guys have just said. I think it's, what do they say, 7 or 8 touch points in order for people to become more familiar with the way that you work, the type of things that you talk about. And as you said, just be part of the tribe, and engaging with them and offering some free help and advice goes a long way, because there's no agenda there effectively, even though there is a hidden agenda, but you're not being intentional and going straight out there and saying, book a call with me now. You're just trying to help them and support them. And I found that to be very useful and successful in my work so far.
Love that. And even I would challenge you to get in touch with the forum owner. That becomes a person
Right.
on your Dream 100, because then if you can say, hey, like, I've helped a ton of people in your forum, mind if we get together and I do like a video session in front of your whole tribe? Can we advertise and market it? And he'll probably say, that'd be amazing, thanks. And then guess what? You're winning, right? Because now you say, for anybody that wants a free 30-minute session, book a call after your thing, and your call to action is great. He approves it and you win, because now you don't have to worry about booking one-to-one calls. Right. You do one presentation, you can book 1 million calls. That's the idea. Love that. Number 4 is add value without asking for anything in return. Simon, you already talked about this one with Seth Godin. I think just maybe touch on it again for those people that are just jumping in right now.
Yeah, give. And at some point, most people want to reciprocate. But don't start with asking, right? Give, whatever you can give, right? Seth Godin was on my list. And then, of course, for a long period, nothing happened. But this is how you use the Dream 100. It takes time, right? And it has its own time. It's not your time. You can't push it. But you can, some people would say, manifest it, right? You can hold that intention and that intensity. So for a while. So what then happened is that one of my sprint clients tells me in a sprint call that Seth Godin is one of their best friends. And I say, well, he's on my list. And so we were talking about that. And so sometimes much later things come together in a way that you cannot know upfront. So just hold it. And at some point, if it should happen, it will happen. And if not, well, then you revamp your Dream 100. Then you have a better dream.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Neil, hopefully this makes sense. I think you kind of understand the concept. Anything you would add or change or say?
I mean, just to add to your point about, I've had my YouTube channel for a number of years now, and I pride myself in trying to make good, intentional tutorial videos to help people. These are all free. And I see that now as my digital resume. That's where people can see the type of work that I do, the type of advice that I give. And, I'm trying to have the videos on there that will support a wide range of people with all kinds of different issues. But now, as my digital resume, as I say, that's where people can say, oh, this guy does good work. I can see the quality of his videos. It's another way of people potentially coming to reach out. And people have got in touch with me just by saying, I saw your video on YouTube. You really gave me some good advice, and I'd like to talk to you more about X.
Perfect. Love that. And the last one is one that most people don't think about, but Simon actually just referenced it in this last piece that he talked about, is this idea of leveraging your existing connections to get warm introductions to your Dream 100. This will be the fastest way to get in touch with these people, and it will be the quickest in order for you to actually convert into a deal if you can truly solve a problem for those people. So one of the things that after you have your list, Simon does an incredible job of this, and I always take notes from him when I learn this stuff, is like he consistently mentions stories. Like he just shared, like, hey, one of my guys that came into my thing was best friends with Seth Godin. Oh my gosh, dude, how can I solve a problem so you can give me an introduction? And that's what Simon is thinking in that conversation with that potential client of his or that client of his. And that becomes fast. So when you're hunting for Dream 100, going through your existing network infinitely increases in value, because those people can give you the in right away. Like, this is how I was able to lock up the guy who has the he's got 2 world records for the best memory on earth. So I got a girl that I went to high school with. I was talking about this memory book that I just bought, and I was reading it, and she's like, "Oh my God, well, I know Dave Faro. If you don't know him, like, he's like my best friend. Like, why don't you?" I was like, "Oh my God, would you introduce to me?" Yeah. Next minute, I got an email like, "Hey, meet Dave." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is incredible." We worked a deal, and guess what? Now he's a client. So happens all the time.
Amazing.
So anyway, with that said, that is the 5 pro tips. Let me just repeat them really quickly to you. Number 1, you got to define your ICP, define your perfect Dream 100. Number 2, craft messaging that stands out, that's different. Number 3, show up, right? Show up in their world, help solve problems for their audience, and learn the language that they use to speak to their tribe. Use that in when you speak with them. Number 4, add value without asking for anything. And number 5, leverage your existing network in order to get those introductions. And that will help you explode your Dream 100 strategy if this is a strategy that you choose to use for your business. And with that said, guys, that's going to wrap up this week's session of Elevate, the ultimate podcast to help founders elevate to the next level. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Neil.
Best moderator in the world, Sean Malone, everyone. Sean, what's our next episode? What's next week? Yeah. Is it AI in sales?
Yeah, next week we're going to talk about all things AI in sales. So if you're into AI, you want to learn about AI, this is going to be the place to show up. And you got 3 superstars here that are going to help you win with AI. Neil, any closing words that you would share?
Just that I've learned so much from you guys today, and I'm going to take the strategy that you've talked about, and I'm going to implement at least some of those into my day-to-day. So thank you so much. It's been
rock and roll. Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go. We'll see you guys next week.
Avoid trying to do thousands of things that doesn't work. We have 274 templates for your business success. Reach your ambitious goals with one-on-one sprint coach. We double your revenue in 90 days.
Well, even when you are on vacation, discover how 1,600 business owners have regained their